Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Chris Hawkes, and this is your best life defined. Let's go ahead and get started on this thing right now. So Sandy and I, we spent about 2.5 years hiking around in the backcountry of Colorado. And one of the things that you probably don't know about us is that we are both scared to death of bears. We have this unrealistic, unwarranted, hyper vigilant fear of getting eaten by a bear. So you can kind of imagine what happens every time we would head out on a backpacking trip. So what we did was we went from walking every day to doing day trips. To the next thing I know, we're standing in Dick's Sporting Goods or some sporting goods store buying about $1,500 worth of equipment. We are going to be mountain backpackers. It was cool as hell at the time, or at least it was cool until we actually headed out on the trail, and then you get about 6-7 miles into a hike, and all of a sudden you realize, oh crap, it's just me and her. And if something happens, I'm going to be blamed for it, and I don't want to have search and rescue trying to find us. And there's all kinds of crazy things that go through your head. But what was really interesting was that I, for some reason, thought that the likelihood of seeing a bear was they were going to be all over the place, and they were always going to be hungry, right? So we would go up on these high mountain. We'd hike up to these mountain lakes in Colorado, and Upper and Lower Sand Creek. Is a really great place to hike if you want to get an idea of where we used to go in Colorado. There, that's in the Sangre de Cristos. But we'd get up there, we get tents set up, and I'd hang the food from the highest tree and do all that stuff to keep bears out of our camp, and I'd cook like 300 yards away so that we weren't didn't have any scent on us, and we'd get rid of our clothes when we'd sleep, and yeah, we did all that stuff. We had bear spray and we had a gun and. But inevitably, we'd be laying there in that tent, and we'd be trying to pretend that neither one of us was scared, and eventually someone would hear a noise, and usually it was my wife. It was Sandy. Would be like, "What was that? What was that?" I'd sit up, and then we'd hear something, and we'd sit up and listen. So, needless to say, our whole adventure, that 2.5, 3 years of backcountry hiking, we never got a good night's sleep. We didn't ever get a good night's sleep because every night was the same way. We would sit up and we would listen for bears, and we'd get some sleep, and we're sleeping on an air mattress that's about an inch and a half thick, a backpacker's mattress. So that didn't help at all. And then we're in a tent, and yeah, it was kind of a scary event. But what was interesting about it was we'd hike out, and our knees would be hurting, and we'd have blisters on our feet, and we'd be tired and dirty and just wore completely out. But we'd get back to the house, and we'd pop open a cold beer, and we'd be sitting there talking about how great our adventure was, and we were closer for it. It actually brought us together, that surviving, nearly dying, whether it was imagined or real. That survival thing brought us together, and we had another instance that was similar to that, but this time we wasn't backpacking. We were in a place called La Garita, Colorado, and we had went up there to try and find the shedded horns from elk and deer. It's a prime location for finding elk horns, and a friend of ours had introduced us to the idea of shed horn hunting, is what they call it. So Sandy and I go up there, and we're camping in a remote area of La Garita up in the mountains there, and it's in the middle of the night, and we're camping in this really small camp trailer. It almost looks like a dog carrier. It has a bed, and it has a cooler, an ice chest in it, and a sink. There's no bathroom. There's a closet. It's just a place to sleep. And in the middle of the night, boom, we hear this big old bang, and I don't know whether the door had come ajar and then the wind had caught it and slammed it shut, or if something had actually hit the side of the RV. But either way, scared the hell out of both of us. And we heard this clanking and all kinds of stuff going on, and just scared the shit out of us, right? And we sat there, and we laugh about it, but at the time I was sure we was going to die. And Sandy tells me, "You go out and check." I'm not going out and check, and they're going to have to come in here if they want some of this, right? So, and we refer to that as the night we survived the boogeyman of La Garita. But again, we came away from that trip, and we were really excited and connected because of that survival thing. And anything, I think it's historically, any time you put yourself in what appears to be a life and death situation or overcoming one of your major fears, it brings you closer to the people you're with. It brings you closer to the people that are engaged in that activity or experienced it with you. And you've seen it with 9/11. You see it with Sully and landing the plane in the Hudson River, and innumerable instances where people have survived together. But what a lot of people don't realize is that power to survive, that need to survive, and overcoming and surviving situations doesn't need to extend to such tragedy and such near death experiences for that to be effective. I mean, the adventure that that we have or that we share in traveling around the country pulling a fifth wheel. That's another opportunity for us to survive. Every time we jump in this RV, there's a little bit of apprehension when we head out and we pull down the road and we talk about it. And it's about, being careful and making sure we're safe and that no one pulls out in front of us and that we're diligent. And there's a certain amount of fear in that, especially when you're going through Las Vegas or Kansas City, Kansas, or Kansas City, Missouri. It's like a friggin' maze going through those cities, especially when you're pulling a 41-foot brick behind you. And apparently you're the only one who can see it the way everyone else is driving. But for as scary as it is, once we get to our destination, and we're there and we're getting things set up when we go into our rhythm of doing what we do, I mean, it rocks. I mean, we are closer together for that. We are closer and we are bonded in our accomplishment. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is because that's the power that's where the power for a strong relationship comes from. See, you're one member of a team of two if you're in a relationship, and you want to bring your best to that team, but you also need to do things that inspire you to remain connected to your teammate. See, I am fully committed to Sandy, and she's fully committed to me, because at this point we've been traveling for 3 years. We've done a lot of scary stuff, and not scary because it was actually going to cost us our life, but the perception that it was going to cost us our life is enough. I mean, the last hurricane we had, the winter before, the one that hit Mexico Beach in Florida, we were in Pensacola, or just north of Pensacola, and we headed to Meridian, Mississippi. And it was because we had made an agreement early on that we're not going to compromise our safety or the safety of our home. We weren't going to risk that based on the possibility that that hurricane wasn't going to hit. And we could have stayed put. The water levels came up, and there were a lot of people in the RV park that we were staying at that did stay. And yeah, they had a few issues, but it was nothing major. But we had just decided we weren't going to do that. But even in running from the hurricane, it was quite an adventure, because we hadn't been in that portion of Mississippi before, and there was a lot of back roads, and the RV park wasn't really much to speak of other than it had a place to park and to get us out of the weather and get us away from the hurricane until things calmed down. But in coming back and driving back and getting everything set back up, Sandy and I were closer because of it. We were closer because first and foremost, we chose this life. We chose this crazy life that no one supports, or no one but my children support. And we continue to survive, and we continue to grow because of it. And it's cool as hell. I mean, it really is cool as hell. And I guess the point in this is that if you are in a relationship and you want to build that team, that attitude toward taking care of each other to the point that you are truly and fully committed, go challenge yourself. Go test your fear together. Go do something neither one of you imagined you'd never do. I mean, I still want to skydive. We're in the mountains, and there's like 100 bald eagles that live in the upriver, in the White River National Forest. They nest every year, and I mean, it's amazing. And you'll see them up there catching the thermals, and they'll be just gliding around, and they're just so majestic. And I've often told Sandy, can you imagine what it would be like to fly? And the only thing I can think of that comes close to it is to hang glide, or to jump out of a plane and parachute, and I'm afraid of both. I'm scared to death of both. But once we do it, we're going to be better for it, because it brings us closer together. To just have that experience one time and to hold that together as one half of your team, it's just friggin' rocking. Now, the downside to this is that it requires you to face your fear. I rock climb. I have rock climbing gear. We spent one summer climbing in a climbing gym in Colorado. I posted some stuff on social media. If you look for it, you're probably going to see me climbing a wall. And I'm afraid of heights. I truly am. When we went to Arches National Monument in Moab, I couldn't get close to the edge. My stomach drops into my feet when I get close to a steep ledge, but I'll still do it. Now, granted, I'll do it on my hands and knees, and even now it's called the Devil's Causeway, and it's in the White River National Forest on the I think it's called the Flat Tops Reserve or Flat Tops Wilderness Area, and I think this thing it might be 8 feet wide, maybe 10 feet wide, and it's just the top of this ridge, and there's a 600-foot drop on both sides, and it's just a sheer drop. It's just like a natural bridge, and I'm going to cross it. Now, I'll cross it on my hands and knees, and my wife will cross it too. And the reason we do that is to build that unity. Is it scary? Yeah. Is it likely that we're going to die and fall to our death? Not too likely. I think we'll be pretty careful about it. But the reality is that by pushing your limits as a couple, it enhances your experience, and it enhances your experience and your appreciation for the person you're with. And it builds that team thing. It builds that thing where you are in it to win it together. You know, we often talk about Team Hawkes when we accomplish something. It's like a high five, Team Hawkes, yeah, because that's really the ticket right there. It's that you do what you need to do to make that relationship grow and prosper. And for Sandy and I, it's about adventure. It's about stepping outside our box, being scared to death, huddled together like two little kids in a tent, waiting for the sun to come up because we're scared of an imaginary bear. And just so you know, I have never... actually, that's not true. I've seen one bear in the wild in my entire life. And it actually happened to be about 20 miles from our house. We were out on just a short day hike, and we come across a younger bear. It was a full-grown adult. It was an adult, but it was younger. It had found a deer carcass, and we kind of wandered on it. It ran off, and it didn't even look like a bear. It was actually really more tan than it was brown. So, but if you want to add some spice to your life, step outside your box. Grab your partner and say, hey, come on, let's do this. And when they say it's scary, you say, I know it is scary. But that's the point. You know, your life can be made better when you push the limits. When you push the limits together as a couple, it brings unity to you and to your partner. And it's an opportunity for you to grow and to become more connected as a team. And, you know, in my previous podcast, relationships have 3 sides. I talked about that, and that's a principle that builds that couple thing, the two of you together. And as always, like I said, those same experiences can happen individually. This is an experience that's making me better for my partner because it's causing me to do what I'm not able to do, or what I don't believe I'm comfortable doing, or what I'm not good at, and I'm facing my fear. And there is fear in this, and I mean, I'll be honest with you. It's scary sitting down in front of this microphone and worrying about disappointing you, worrying about whether or not I'm giving you the quality that you deserve. I mean, your time is valuable. I don't have the right to waste it. I don't have the time to spend talking about stuff that does not give you ideas and help you enhance your life. So there's a fear there, but I'm facing it because it will make me better. So take a look at where you are. Take a look at where you are and take a look at where you're going and see what you can do about getting there. And I guarantee that you pick it, take action on it, and it will be yours. And you will be glad you did. So just a few words out there. I hope you're doing well. I hope you will take a look at my YouTube channel. I have 8 followers right now. Hopefully I'll have 9 after this. This is cool. Growing like bam. And then, of course, the podcast, if you share, that would be great, too. I know I'm not supposed to ask people to share my podcast, but I think it's a good message. I think there's some value in what I'm giving. At least I hope there is. If you think so, please let other people know about it. And I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear you tell me, bleh. I'd love to hear you tell me, hey, great job. I appreciate your advice. And sounds like, you know, whatever you have to say. I'd just love for you to say hi. That way, at least I know someone's out there. But anyway, I'm going to keep rolling because this is my thing. I'm headed in a direction we're going to watch this grow, and even if it isn't great today, it will be greater with each day that I do it. And before you know it, this is just going to be second nature to me. So just remember, as always, today is your day. Be sure you make it a good one.